Starting in verse 6 of chapter 4, and let's keep working our way through every verse. Remember, there are 404 verses, and we have to keep plowing through each one. Chapter 6 tells us what happens each time we worship. Remember I said 2 classes ago that Easter Sunday that we recently celebrated, there were more people worshiping God than ever in history of the universe? Do you know why? It's because all those who die are absent from the body and they're present with the Lord. The group around the throne is growing every day, fast. And on earth it's growing too as we share the gospel. But look what happens when all of us are worshiping, starting in verse 6. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like crystal. In the midst of the throne, around the throne, were 4 living creatures. And then it describes in verse 7, these are the 4-faced cherubim. And verse 8, the 4 living creatures have 6 wings, they're full of eyes, they do not rest, but say, holy, 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 verse 8. And verse 9, whenever they give glory and honor and thanks to him who sits on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down. Now for just a second, what is this 24 elders, okay? What is that talking about? Well, here's the throne of God in heaven. There are 4 of these cherubim that are flying around this throne. I call it theocentric orbit. The throne is in the center, and they're flying around the throne like this. Then next, directly in front of the throne, there are these 7 flames of fire, which the Bible describes as the archangels. We know 2 of them, Gabriel and Michael. So we know Gabriel and Michael, and there are 5 others we don't know their names. So 4 cherubim, 7 archangels, throne of God. Then the next thing around the throne are these 24 little thrones that are seated in a circle around this throne, and these are called the 24 elders. Now what group is that? Who are they? Well, the Bible doesn't name them, just like we don't even know all the archangels, and certainly we don't know the names of any cherubim except one. Now you know one cherub, Satan. When he was Lucifer, he was a cherub. So we know the name of one cherub, we know the name of 2 archangels, we know the name of none of the elders. But I will give you a little idea of who they might be. Because heaven has this merging of 2 groups of 12. There are the 12 gates of heaven and the 12 foundations. And the 12 foundations are the apostles, and the 12 gates are the tribes of Israel. So it appears the 24 represent all the gathered people of God. The Old Testament, the 12 tribes, Israel, the chosen people of promise, and the New Testament church, 12 apostles. So it appears these 24 represent us. And why would we say that? Because the only time 24 occurs in the Bible is 24 courses of priests, of which Zechariah, John the Baptist's father, was one of them. There are 24 courses of priests in the Old Testament. And then we learn from Peter that we are a chosen nation, a holy priesthood. So it's almost like the 24 elders represent the holy priesthood of all believers, old and new, merged together around the throne. But what's amazing, when these come around the throne, Paul explained that we're to set our affection on things above. What's he talking about? We're supposed to be longing to be a part of this representative worship of God seated on his throne, connected to what's going on in heaven. Let me just give you a little bit of the wonder of the scriptures. If you go to Ezekiel chapter 1, see the slide in front of you? It says God's throne, this throne right here, is surrounded by clouds of raging fires. That's Ezekiel 1, verses 4 through 6. Then it says there are sparkling ones, these angels here, that surround the throne, reflecting the light. It says in Ezekiel 1:13 that out of the throne proceed lightnings. So there are lightning flashes coming out of the throne and peals of thunder. Now that's what Ezekiel 1:13 to 17 says. And that's exactly what we see in Revelation 4 and 5. It's one of those 800 allusions. Also, it says God's throne is surrounded in Ezekiel 1:18 and 19 by highly intelligent beings covered with eyes. Oh, wait, look at chapter 4, and it says in verse 6 of Revelation, and around the throne there was a sea of glass like crystal. In the midst of the throne, around the throne, were 4 creatures full of eyes. Remember these right here? These cherubim? Those are the same ones that are in Ezekiel, verses 18 and 19 of chapter 1. And then it says that the surface that all these thrones are sitting on and these angels are standing on is crystal, and it's reflecting all this light, glistening crystal that reflects and refracts the light of his glory. So we could summarize and say God's throne is surrounded by these huge sounds, all these flashes of lightning, and it sparkles like a burning fire. Now there are a couple, that's what I just described to you is what's here in Ezekiel chapter 1. Do you know what Daniel adds to it in chapter 7? In chapter 9? In chapter 10? He talks about the fact that there is a river of fire. So coming right out of the front of the throne is this river of fire that flows out from beneath the throne. So, a pavement of glass, a throne that is flashing lightning, pealing with thunder, surrounded by these flying angels, these 7 standing angels, these 24 elders. By the way, the next layer right here, it has all the redeemed of all time. They're the next row, and it keeps growing. Then there's an outer row. Now, the geography I know that explains how big this is right here. Anybody recognize this state? That's the state of Michigan, okay? Anytime you see Michigan, looks like a hand, a mitt. If you took how much space it would take for hundreds of millions of people to stand far enough apart so they can get down on their faces and then get back up and keep doing that all the time, on a map, it would take an area about the size of the lower peninsula of the state of Michigan. That's the geographic area, the size of the area surrounding the throne. So what we're saying is, this is an incomprehensibly large area.